Yes, this airplane has been called by just about every derogatory permutation of its given name. Skymasher, Skytrasher, and Mixmaster, for example, and a few others making fun of its centerline thrust configuration. Push me, pull you, and suck and blow. The hardy soul arriving in one of Cessna's great multi-engine experiments garners sneers from drivers of real twins. You know, those airplanes with an engine on each wing and a minimum controllable number etched on the airspeed indicator? Cessna introduced the original Skymaster with fixed landing gear and normally aspirated 210 horsepower Continental engines. That model, the 336 Skymaster, came to market in late 1963, but was superseded for the 1965 model year by the 337, sporting a retractable gear and better cooling ducts for the rear engine. Few changes came to the basic airframe between introduction and the ending of production in 1980, except for the beefing up to accommodate pressurization for 1973. Big news arrived in the form of a turbocharged version in 1967. The straight turbo option was dropped at the end of the 1971 run in preparation for the 1973 debut of the pressurized 337. With a maximum pressure differential of 3.35, giving a 10,000-foot cabin at 20,000 feet, the P337 appeared as a true economy P-twin. All told, 1,867 of the 337 and T337 models were built, along with 334 pressurized versions. Cessna sold a total of 510 M337s, known as the O2As and the O2Bs, to the military, which gained the reputation of being almost literally bulletproof. The Reims plant in France built a total of 109 of the various 337s under a license from Cessna. As promised by the Cessna design staff way back when, the 337's manners make it the perfect step-up twin for a pilot accustomed to a Skylane or Centurion. Handling is standard issue Cessna, heavy in pitch but unflappable and hugely stable in airspeed once trimmed. The Skymaster is just a bit heavier and faster and more demanding than the big singles below it in the line. Perhaps the greatest advance brought by the Skymaster was docile engine out handling. Lose a power plant on takeoff and the 337 will not try to head for the weeds. At maximum weight, however, the Skymaster is truly lethargic unless the dead engine's propeller is feathered. If an engine dies in cruise, the usual dead foot dead engine chant doesn't work. You must look carefully at the instruments and be sure to verify your choice before feathering a prop. Single engine service ceiling is very good, better than conventional twins. The big Cessna can be brought down final approach at surprisingly low velocities too. For the heaviest airplane, Cessna recommends a normal approach of 80 to 90 knots, with short field procedures calling for just 78 knots over the fins. Count on optimum cruise speeds for the normally aspirated models in the 165 knot range at 5,000 feet, burning 23 gallons per hour total. Cruise speeds of the T337 show a best of 190 knots at 25,000 feet, burning 22 gallons per hour total, while the 1980 T337, 225 horsepower each engine, tops out at 204 knots, using 26.6 gallons per hour at 20,000 feet. The later T337 and P337 models are only certified to 20,000 feet, whereas the earlier turbo models have no such limitation, a quirk of changes in the certification standards that took place in the 1970s. While the 337 is no speedster, at least the cabin has the stretch-out room to make the journey comfortable. Cessna called the 337 a 6-place airplane and the P337 a 5-placer. But to carry a half-dozen people means having them hold their luggage on their laps because there's no room left for the baggage. Unless, of course, you find a 337 with the optional cargo pod. Really, the 337 is a marvelously comfortable 4-person airplane with room and payload for baggage. There is excellent visibility from the front row of seats because the wing is well aft and the windows are large. The pilot and co-pilot have an almost unobstructed view of the outside. If there is a negative, it's the engines attached to each end of the cabin. This creates quite a racket at high-power settings. Reducing engine speeds helps tremendously, but you'll still want to have comfortable, quiet headsets aboard. Most Skymasters have pretty good range too, with the long-range tanks available from the start. Airplanes through the 1972 models had 92 gallons usable standard with 128 gallons optional. Starting in 1973, the auxiliary tanks were plumbed in with the mains, eliminating the need to switch tanks except to turn the fuel off or to cross-feed. Standard tanks for the 1973 and 1974 models remain 92 gallons usable, with a long-range option totaling 118 gallons. In 1975, the extended range tankage was increased to 148 gallons usable in 4 interconnected wing tanks a side. Another systems headache, according to owners in simplified directional facilities, is the gear system. All 337s have full gear doors, and the hydraulic systems has been the bane of many a mechanic. We're told, however, by the Cessna Pilots Association that with proper maintenance, the 337 gear can be reliable and not terribly expensive to maintain. The bottom line seems to be that the basic 337 airframe is the strong, simple type, but the airplane's engine and systems can really hog out a checking account. It's been said that there's no such thing as a cheap-to-keep twin, and that may be true. Certainly if there were, the 337 would not be at the top of the list. Still, maintenance problems don't seem to matter much for those individuals who have spent the time and effort to debug their airplanes. For them, the 337 represents a reasonably economical, safe multi-engine airplane. They truly seem to love the Skymaster and will shoot daggers at those non-believers who call it anything other than a 337.